Taxes are a means of confiscation, a legal method of siphoning wealth from the taxpayer to the government. Place your bets on the certainty that taxes will continuously increase as the years go on. New hidden taxes will punish us as well. Governments are always proposing higher taxes on the quote, wealthy people, but this isn't really true since the real wealthy are exempt from these schemes. New revelations have disclosed that 6 of the top 10 UK corporations don't pay any tax. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we are going to discuss this criminality, deceit, and deception that goes on before our very eyes. We have individuals like Warren Buffett saying, look, my secretary pays more taxes than I do. That's outrageous. We should increase taxation on the wealthy. But Warren Buffett is exempt from taxation. He gets bailouts. This is the kind of schemes that they pull, and they do so successfully using their methods of propaganda. Before I get into the topic for today, I just wanted to cover what's happening right now in the stock market very briefly and just mention this individual. Since 1946, when the S&P 500 was down in January, the full year ended down in the majority of the years, 56% of the time to be precise. But that means 44% of the time, a miserable January was not a bad omen. Right here, this is intentional propaganda trying to calm the markets down. So they will output as much bull statements as they can, and that is a pun. A disappointing January did not necessarily mean a bear market was coming. Bear markets or plunges of more than 20% that spook investors for several months were not inevitable. On the other hand, the year-end results weren't too good. Decline average of 3.2%. It gets into more of the details if you're interested, but essentially I just want to show you how they will try and calm the markets down at every chance they get. I don't believe that the markets deserve to be necessarily growing at this time. They need some more QE. They need some more life support. And until they get that, the markets will be volatile. Let's move into this right here. Zero tax bill for the UK Big Six. I'm just going to move down and show you that here as we look at least 6 of Britain's 10 biggest multinationals, including Shell, British American Tobacco, and Lloyds Banking Group, paid no UK corporate tax in 2014. That's huge news to think about it. You're talking about some of the biggest companies around, and they don't have to pay tax. They make excuses for it, how one division didn't make any profit this year, and so on and so forth. But they know the loopholes. Why? Because their alumni work in the high positions of government, and they're able to get around these laws and regulations that are put in place for us, not for them, and we don't have those choices. We don't have those opportunities. They had a combined global profit of more than 30 billion pounds. This is huge, and still doesn't matter because they're not going to have to pay any tax. The disclosure comes as the Tories are embroiled in a row over a deal with Google that allowed it to pay just 130 million in corporate tax since 2005. What a joke. All of the major corporations, the biggest in the world, pay little to no tax whatsoever. They, as I'll show you in a moment, they try to make these claims that they're, cracking down. That's not the case. The other companies that paid no UK corporate tax in 2014 were Lloyds, Brewer, SAB Miller, and drug companies, and BP and the drug company GlaxoSmithKline declined to reveal how much UK corporate tax they paid, though they said they paid some. And it goes on to talk about this. They don't pay much tax, if any, and you and I, of course, have to pay lots of tax. But Facebook, on the other hand, only pays 4% tax on the billions, that's right, billion with a B, in dollars in profits it generated from users in Britain and other overseas markets last year. Incredible the way they pay taxes. Facebook, one of the bigger companies now today, barely has to pay anything. This is from a book as a talk about regulations, laws, and how that affects taxation. What I'm talking about is having these developing nations, how they have favorable taxation, and a lot of the corporations simply move overseas if it's too expensive for them to do their business in the West. This allows them to avoid the restrictive regulations in order to keep the corporate profits up. Just as an example, GE moved its X-ray unit to China in order to increase their profits. 3M does its manufacturing in China and wants to expand it further. And it goes on. But essentially what I'm talking about here is that you're not doing them a favor, the corporations, if you're making it more and more difficult. If you increase taxation on a corporation, they're just going to go overseas for all of their operations. They're going to sell the products to your consumers located in your country, but they're going to do all of the rest of their operations overseas. So it is very, very difficult. You need to make it favorable for them, but have them keep all of their expenditures and everything here located in the country that you reside in. But at the same time, don't give loopholes to major corporations and then increase taxation on individuals here. Taxation is not going to fix any problems. Britain has been privately lobbying the EU to remove the tax haven through which Google funnels billions of pounds of profits from an official blacklist. Treasury ministers have told the European Commission that they are strongly opposed to the proposed sanctions against Bermuda, a favored shelter for Google's profits and one of 30 tax jurisdictions in Brussels sites. So they're trying to basically have some sort of countermeasures, but ultimately I think this will be a failure because there's always somewhere else they can take their dollars, their currency, and basically use it in order to increase corporate profits. Like I said before, the corporations have their alumni inside the highest positions of power, and that's not going to change anytime soon. British-backed Westfield Sports Cars, a British car maker, will be responsible for manufacturing testing of the pods. What we're talking about here is that they are implementing further and further robotics and automation into where we live. And this right here is essentially a test run in London to take place where there will be, in fact, driverless pods on the roads. It's just a test for the time being, but it's happening very, very quickly. It will happen this year, and this is also happening in certain areas in the US and other places. We are seeing this actually taking place right before our very eyes. What worries me here is, as I've said before, fewer and fewer jobs that are going to be available for people. I do understand why this is beneficial, clearly something great in a way, but at the same time, we need jobs of all pay scales in order to, have a little bit of a booming economy at this time when it is definitely suffering. So I try to show both sides here of the automation and the robotics that's going on right now. If you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up. Last but not least, if you found the video informative, you'll definitely find my book, The Money GPS, even more informative. You can actually flip through the book. If you go over to Amazon, they have a look inside feature. It allows you to flip through the pages of the book and see if you like it. Take care.